Seemed like a pretty upbeat practice. Seemed like guys were having fun. What's been the mood so far?
I think we've had a really good week of practice. I thought yesterday's practice was excellent. I thought today's practice was excellent. We're at the point of the year where we start cutting back in terms of time. It doesn't seem like much, but individually we go from 5-minute periods to 4-minute periods. I think little changes like that at the right time throughout the year help. We still got to get the same amount of reps in practice from a game plan perspective. The individuals and fundamentals are always critical and important, but there just comes a point you got to start kind of modifying practice a little bit. And I thought our guys have reacted really well. We're not out here as long, but the energy and the enthusiasm is excellent. What I mentioned there at the end of practice, it's pretty cool to see some of the competitive periods that we do, and you see some of the young guys starting to figure out what they have to do to compete at this level. And I think that's one of the better things that I think we do with morning workouts and practices. Nobody can hide in our program, and I think in a team sport a lot of times when you get 11 guys out there, 22 guys out there, you can hide a little bit. And for us, our program's a little bit like wrestling. We do a lot of things in winter workout, tire pull, a lot of things in the beginning of practice you guys don't get to see, where we do one-on-ones and there's no hiding. So guys, in front of everybody, you man on man, mano a mano, and everybody sees. And you either step up and compete or you get beat in front of everybody. And I think that's been really good for us. So it's really cool to see some of our young guys starting to kind of figure out how they have to compete at this level to be successful. So I'm pleased so far. I haven't watched the film yet, obviously, but I'm pleased so far with this week of preparation.
Did you acknowledge those guys by name, James, out there, or can you share any of their names with us?
Yeah, I think Antonio Shelton's a different guy right now. You look at him from last fall and then started to make some changes this spring to now, dramatically different. Dramatically different. He was one of the guys that I pointed out that I know for sure. I don't really have another one right now, but he's, I think, a really, really good example of a young guy that's really kind of starting to figure out what he has to do. And there's other guys, but it just seems like each week there's one more guy that maybe isn't ready now, but you could see them, the coaches gaining confidence and their teammates gaining confidence that they're going to be guys that are going to be ready to step in next year. That's the balance, I think, as a head coach, is you're always looking at what do you got to do this week to get ready to be successful this week, but then you also got to have components of your program that you're developing for, down the road. So I think, I'm pleased with that.
With the 11 o'clock Central start, we've talked about start times before. Is there something that maybe you've learned by going through this a couple times? Obviously, Iowa was a little different because it's a night game, or do you guys try and keep them on Eastern time and just
No, I think the biggest thing is talking about it. So we start talking about it on Sunday. I just got done talking about it to them as well. We've been a great first quarter team this year. That needs to continue on Saturday. It's a completely different situation, playing at 11 a.m. We're basically going to wake up and have pregame meal and go play the game. So talking about, make sure they're getting enough sleep all week, hydration, nutrition, and then no excuses. No excuses. We all know 11 o'clock we're kicking the ball off and we need to be ready to play. So let's not act like we didn't know that was coming. So talking about it all week long. We got some things planned for when we get to the stadium, what we're going to do. In the past, I think you guys remember we talked about kind of bring your own juice, where we didn't have music at practice and said we're going to have to create that on our own. We decided on Sunday when we talked to the staff, we're not going to do that. We got a routine. Our practice has been really good. Let's make sure we're maximizing practice and talk about what we're going to have to do on Saturday, but not change our routine. So far, I think it's been really good.
James, we saw towards the tail end of practice there, John Holland catch a touchdown. What have you seen out of him this week during practice?
He's been good. He's a guy that's kind of steadily evolving and growing. Like a lot of them, I think early on, he wasn't as patient as he needed to be. He's behind a really good player. But John's a guy that I think we've all seen flashes in the spring game situations, practice situations, that he's got a bright future. He's a big, strong guy who's fast. He can make plays. He's physical enough in the running game. I think he's got a really bright future. So, So I think the coaching staff and the players have a lot of confidence in him and what he's going to do. But I feel better and better about Mike every single day. So we'll see what comes Saturday.
James, how do you think Grant Haley has
doing?
Good? How are you?
What's your name? I don't know if I've ever.
I'm Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Nice to meet you. How do you think Grant Haley has kind of progressed as a player from last year to this year, and is there a particular area where you think he's improved the most?
Probably just every aspect. Grant's such a mature guy. He's really smart. He's great on and off the field. He's a tremendous student. He's made a bunch of plays. I think that's probably the biggest difference for him. Is those plays that he made as a freshman on special teams gave him confidence. I think the block kick against Ohio State took him to a whole nother level. He's the guy that's playing with a lot of confidence right now. He's the guy that you know what you're going to get every practice and every game. There's not a whole lot of highs and lows and dips and valleys in his game. He's very consistent. He's very mature. And obviously he's a talented guy. So there's a lot of value in that, from a coaching perspective. When you got a guy that you know what you're going to get every single day, and you know what you're going to get on Saturdays. And he's also a guy that I think, has the ability to continue to make more plays for us.
Hey James, over here. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You mentioned last week about dividing the season into phases. If you go back, you're like 16 and 14, but since then you're 14 and 1. Can you do the same thing with your time here and dividing that into phases?
I hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah, I think you could. I mean, obviously, you look at my time as a head coach. When we first took over programs, there was work that needed to be done, and as we were there longer, we got better during individual seasons, and then we also got better. Obviously, the longer we were there, once the locker room got the way we needed it to be, the culture was in place, the depth started to come, those types of things. So, I hadn't thought about it like that, but yeah, I think you could say that. I think you could break it down that way. We're in a good situation right now. We still got a lot of work to do in a lot of different areas, but I see us gradually chipping away at each one of those areas. So yeah, I'm pleased where we're at. As you know, we're focused on Northwestern and not really looking at it from that perspective inside the program in terms of big picture. But I do think there's confidence that comes from that. There's experience that comes from that. But we're really just focused on Northwestern.
Coach, Northwestern presents a combination of a very experienced coach in the Big Ten and a very experienced quarterback. Those two in place, key pieces, what does that present challenge-wise for your squad?
Well, I think exactly what you're saying. You're playing a team, and you're playing a program, and you're playing a coach that aren't going to make rookie mistakes. They've been there, done that. Not only do you have Fitz as a coach, but also played in this league and was a highly successful player in this league. So, there's a lot of value in that, and we're starting to get to that point. We're starting to get to the point where we got a staff that's been to these locations multiple times now. We understand, different venues. We understand different programs. We understand what Iowa's all about. We understand what Indiana's all about. We understand what Northwestern's all about, and that helps. I don't think there's any doubt about it, and that's what they are. They're a veteran program with a veteran coach and a veteran quarterback, and typically when you have those things, you got a chance. And they play hard, and they're smart, and they're talented. So I think we've all seen Northwestern week in and week out, either be victorious or play people tough. So we better be ready. Got a lot of respect for them and what they do and how they do it.
How have you seen Michael Menet develop kind of since camp to now, and what do you think that experience on special teams does for him on the field goal unit, just getting him on the field?
Yeah, I don't know if necessarily the field goal unit. I think it probably does a little bit, but he's a talented guy. He's an athletic guy. He's also a guy that was always just bigger and more athletic than everybody else. So he's learning every single day, and he's getting better, and we need him to. He's kind of that next wave of linemen that we need to continue to grow and develop. But I see flashes. I see flashes like a lot of players. It's the consistency aspect that needs to kind of change. And I think that's probably the hardest part for guys transitioning to college is the intensity and the focus that you have to have play after play after play to be successful. Where in high school, you could just overpower people. Where here, you better be on your game play after play. Guys aren't used to doing that. So, I think that's the biggest thing for him is consistency.
James, you talked about situations. The past few years, you had pulled things out of games that you had experienced in losses. But when you're winning, and winning a lot of these games by a lot of points, do you go back and recycle those situations? Do you do situations that you had? Where are you drawing those from a practice perspective?
Yeah. To me, that shouldn't change. Whether it's a win or whether it's a loss, there's teachable moments. And we talked about it the last couple of weeks. If we have to lose to grow, then we're in trouble. We'll never reach our goal of who and what we want to be. And you look at our program right now. That was my conversation with the team today in the team meeting. We've done some nice things and we are having some success, but we better spend time focusing on our areas of weakness. And we need to be very honest with ourselves and say, what are we going to do to improve individually, collectively, the whole package? But you still pull those things. You pull things out. I always show one video clip, typically in practice, of something I've seen kind of on social media, or I've seen watching football on the weekends, or something from our own practice I thought was really good, or a learning experience. I think I showed today was a block punt in the South Florida game that I watched last week, where the Temple, South Florida, a couple weeks ago, they blocked a punt that went across the line of scrimmage. They went after it, South Florida, didn't get it, Temple got the ball back. Just stuff that we cover all the time in practice, but I think when you can show them video examples, most of these guys are visual learners, and it helps. It helps kind of reinforce the point. No different than us in practice. At the end of practice, instead of going 2 minutes and just saying a random situation, being able to use something that's more real to them, I think helps.